Welcome to the Fralin Spotlight Talks for YouTube. Before we begin, I encourage you to use these videos interactively. When you are prompted to observe, pause the video and look carefully. When the educator asks a question, feel free to pause the video again and discuss your observations and ideas, making sure to address what you see that makes you say that. Enjoy!
In this video, we're going to take a close look at female figurine with raised arms from pre-dynastic Egypt. Let's begin by slowly looking. Start at the hands, working your way down the arms, trying to notice the texture and color of the object. Continue your way down and observe how the surface has changed over time. What do you notice about the colors? What do you notice about the texture? Take a moment to pause the video here and write down your observations or discuss with a partner. The clay used to make this object is a mixture of Nile alluvium and sand, found in southern Egypt and northern Nubia. The ancient cultures of Egypt and Nubia influenced each other in many ways over thousands of years. This figurine shows us how we can see some of these cultural influences in pottery. I invite you to try to describe this figurine using descriptive language like adjectives, similes, and your senses. Make a list of all of the adjectives you would use to describe what you're seeing. What does it look like? What does it feel like? As I look at this figurine, I think it would be rough to touch, a bit like sandpaper. An adjective I would use to describe this figurine is elegant, because the raised arms remind me of a dancer's arms. This object has been titled Female Figurine with Raised Arms. What do you notice about the pose? Does it remind you of any dances you know? I notice that her arms are raised high above her head, like horns. This pre-dynastic Egyptian object is from Upper Egypt, which is near Lower Nubia. This area, near the first cataract of the Nile River, where Nubia and Egypt overlap geographically. We do not know the identity of the artist who made this figurine, but the artistic style reflects an understanding and influence of earlier Nubian and Egyptian potters. In both Egypt and Nubia, potters were experimenting with and refining these pottery practices, hand-building their designs and firing them in open fires. This figurine may be representative of the goddess Hathor. Dances in honor of Hathor are represented on the walls of tombs, often of women with their hands over their heads. The female figurine with raised arms looks like she is partaking in a cow dance, and the arm position of the dance resembles cow horns or bucranium, which leads some archaeologists to associate this dance with Hathor. Female figurine with raised arms was found in a tomb. Why might someone have placed an object like this in a tomb? If you were to be buried in a tomb, what kinds of objects would you want to be included? Take a moment to list some objects of importance in your life. If you were to make a figurine, what would it represent? How might your figurine be inspired by a female figurine with raised arms? As our time together comes to an end, take a moment to reflect on what you've learned. What questions do you still have? If you could interview the person from whose tomb this figurine was found, what would you ask them? How can art help us understand and connect to ancient cultures? Finally, I invite you to think about how you could use your observations to create your own piece of poetry or prose inspired by female figurine with raised arms.
We hope you've enjoyed this Writer's Eye Spotlight Talk. Please reach out to the Education Department with any questions or feedback. Our email is museumoutreach@virginia.edu.